Bonjour tout le monde, welcome back. I'm Diane. This is We in France, the place where I share all the unexpected, wonderful, and even sometimes weird things that I've discovered about life in France as a foreigner. Now today, I got this video idea from one of your comments a long time ago, and it's all about the unexpected yet positive surprises about life in France. These are things that I just didn't see coming, but that had made my experience living here that much better. So if you've ever dreamed of living in France, or you just love hearing about cultural surprises and differences, stick around. Allez, c'est parti. All right, number one, the food culture, it is on another level. And look, I knew that France was famous for food. You probably do as well. But I really underestimated just how deeply ingrained food culture is in every aspect of life. It's not just about eating, it's an art, it's a passion, and it's a way of life. Now, even out in small towns, non-touristy places, out where I live, I've been blown away by how many restaurants serve homemade dishes with fresh ingredients, local ingredients, things that are in season. And if we turn to the people working at restaurants, they're not just employees. They're artists, craftsmen, storytellers taking genuine pride and passion in the food that they're preparing and serving. Now, I feel like in France, more so than the US, restaurant jobs aren't just jobs, they're vocations for a lot of people. Remember, people in France are not working for tips, so that's not the motivation. 20% out at a French restaurant when you eat out here, that's not a thing. And seeing this level of dedication and actual love for the food, it's completely changed the way that I appreciate what's on my plate. And the best part is that even casual neighborhood restaurants serve dishes that would rival fine dining elsewhere. My favorites are simple dishes at just regular mom and pop restaurants, simple dishes but prepared really well, like just perfectly cooked fresh fish and lightly sauteed local in-season vegetables. Doesn't need to be fancy to be great. Of course, there's great food in the US too. This isn't a knock to my home country, not at all. But it is a celebration of something that France gets right, and French food culture is at the top of my list. Definitely number one. Okay, number two, veterinary care. This is something that really touched my heart. Our sweet dog Dagny, who was like a child to us, she passed away in March 2022, right after I lost my mom. And throughout her life, she had some health issues that required regular vet visits and a lot of specialized care. And she lived a great life, don't get me wrong, but her vets played into that. And just let me tell you, the level of kindness and dedication and overall care that we experienced here in France from her vets near and far was beyond anything I could have expected. You know, from our regular vet here in town to emergency specialists, everyone was honestly caring, gentle. They put the well-being of Dagny first. Of course, you can find good vets everywhere in the world, but the fact that our experience across the board was extremely positive, it was such a relief to me. And over her entire life, it was just constant great care. Now, a lot of veterinary practices in the US are corporate owned. A lot tend to care more about making money above all over animal care. That's not the norm everywhere, but there's a stark contrast in France with how everything was handled, even when we were on vacation and needed to see an emergency vet. So this is a very pleasant surprise. I was also surprised in a very good way by how affordable vet care is here compared to the US. So for example, Dagny's medication was about 50 euros a month, which would have been several $100s in the US. Her MRIs, they were about 550 euros at the time, whereas in the US, they would have been several thousand for just one scan. Losing Dagny, especially if anyone watching knows me in real life, was extremely hard just with the timing of everything, but just knowing that she was in good hands every step of the way, it meant the world to me. And I think for as long as I live, I will always remember how wonderful the vets were here, and I will cherish that. Another surprise about life in France is when we can't access our favorite websites due to geo restrictions, or when we get hit with malware, data theft, and scams. Well, I want to introduce you to today's sponsor, and that is NordVPN. Now, their mission is to make the internet better than it is today, meaning it should be free of online threats, censorship, and surveillance. And you could check them out via my link below, nordvpn.com/weinfrance. Their virtual private network, the VPN, lets you browse safely online with a single click, whether you're home or abroad, especially when you're out using public Wi-Fi networks. You won't have to worry about malware and hackers. Your data is going to stay private, and your online activity will not be tracked. You can go online without worrying about annoying scammers or just that creepy feeling of being constantly watched. They even have a feature called Threat Protection Pro that will protect you from fake-looking online stores that are out to scam you. You could just think of NordVPN as a fence for the internet that keeps you safe by encrypting your internet data and protecting your online identity. Now just download NordVPN, which looks like this on desktop, and browse safely and privately with the fastest VPN on the planet. One account is going to protect up to 10 devices, and NordVPN offers 24/7 customer support. Now, to start browsing safely and risk-free, get my exclusive NordVPN deal plus 4 months extra on a 2-year plan with my link nordvpn.com/weinfrance. It is risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Now back to the video. Okay, number 3, France's beautiful landscapes. Now, like you, I'd seen pictures of France before moving here. Beautiful landscapes, maybe photoshopped, I don't know. But seeing the places in person is a whole different story, and they were not photoshopped. They really are absolutely breathtaking. The Calanque near Marseille, the Brittany coast with Mont Saint-Michel, the lavender fields in Provence, quaint little villages. I could go on, and they have all blown me away. And what I find truly amazing about France is how diverse the landscapes are. We have vineyards, dramatic cliffs, ocean, countryside, whatever it is, all in one country. And every time I visit a new region, I feel like I've stepped into a whole new world, and I love that. And if you go back to some of my older videos on this channel, you'll see I used to do some live walking tours from some of my favorite places, La Rochelle here on the Atlantic coast, near where I live here in Angers. Being able to see France with my own eyes is something I'll never take for granted. Okay, number 4, being able to buy amazing wine directly from the source. Now, I live out here in the Loire Valley, and let me tell you, one of the coolest things that surprised me in the best way is that you can buy wine directly from the producers in person, which is something you couldn't do back in New York City. And it's not just about getting good wine, which, let's be real, that's already a win. It's the experience of actually meeting the people who make it, seeing where the grapes grow, walking through the vineyards, and seeing the production facility. I don't mean just going to a vineyard in person and walking into their boutique, their little shop, and buying it from someone who's a salesperson there. That's great too. But I mean actually talking to the people who make the wine. I feel like it tastes that much better when you know exactly where it came from. And I want to shout out my favorite wine, Muscadet, which is made right here in the Nantes area from the Melon de Bourgogne grape. Don't confuse it with Muscat. That's totally different. Muscadet is a white wine. It's dry. It has great minerality. It's amazing with seafood or just on a nice summer evening. And let's not forget my other favorite type of wine, sparkling, especially the Crémant from Loire Valley here. We also have Savenière, which is on the banks of the Loire, Vouvray, all the Chenin wines, everything in and around Saumur, the Anjou wines. They're all amazing, and I'm lucky because where I live really aligns with the types of wines that I like. And before moving to France, I didn't realize that a lot of the wine that you see in wine stores, it's mass-produced and white-labeled. So you have a company putting out bulk wines, grapes they buy and produce in bulk, and then they just slap different labels on there to differentiate. And all that is very far removed from the actual winemaking process. So it's been really eye-opening and fun to learn about wine production firsthand as someone who lives in the Loire Valley. And of course, what I started with, the opportunity to buy it directly from the people who make it and support these small businesses. And another perk is that local wines here, especially in Anjou, they're super affordable. Like, I'm talking about amazing, to me at least, bottles for like 10 euros, sometimes even less. Of course, there are wines that, are on a spectrum, much more expensive, but it just makes the whole experience of enjoying that glass or 2 or 3 of wine that much more special when you know exactly where it came from and the people behind it. That said, I don't think I could ever go back to just picking a random bottle off a supermarket shelf. And actually now when I go back to the US, I rarely drink any wine at all, like when I'm out to eat at a restaurant, because I'm so spoiled by the amazing selection here and the prices. All right, number 5, that French people are actually not rude, and this was a hugely pleasant surprise. I know you've heard the stereotype, I was bombarded with it before I moved here, that French people are rude, and surprise, that's actually not been my experience at all. Before I moved, people warned me that, the French, they're arrogant snobs and they hate Americans. You're not going to have a good time there. It's kind of funny because the people telling me this had very little experience with French people beyond a vacation or 2 or that friend of a cousin's neighbor who they met once for 5 minutes, But have I met any rude snobs? Sure. I've met them in the US, I've met them in France, I've met them elsewhere. there are rude people everywhere, but I haven't found overall that French people live up to those stereotypes, and it was such a relief. And sure, culturally speaking, France might be a little different than what you're used to. People might not be openly chatty like strangers in other places. And of course, if you don't say bonjour and extend common courtesy, well, you're probably going to be in for a wake-up call. But once I learned about these things and I got past that first layer and learned the ins and outs of the culture, I was surprised to find that the French are like any other group, and kind of felt stupid thinking it would be anything different, you know? French people are diverse, they're incredibly helpful and kind, and I can't think of one time where I've been treated poorly just because I'm American. You know, the French might hate our politics or have like feelings about foreigners, but when you're actually face to face with an actual person, the vast majority of the time, people are perfectly normal and kind. Whether it's people in my neighborhood, my local pharmacist, a supermarket cashier, I felt welcome here, and I've made genuine connections with people over the years. So if you're on the fence about visiting France, you're hesitant because you think French people are so rude and they hate Americans, just give people the benefit of the doubt. Go in with neutral, zero expectations, and if you're respectful, you're going to be pleasantly surprised like I was. So there you have it, 5 unexpected positive surprises about my life in France. And let me point out, as I often do in the name of balance, France is far from perfect. I don't want to give you that impression either. But everything I did talk about here has helped me to integrate, and it's helped me to kind of fall into place here and even fall in love with France. So with that said, I want to turn it over to you. Tell me in the comments about the positive surprises about your life abroad, or even your visit to France. If you've been here, what you've noticed. Yeah, just want to know what stood out to you the most. All right, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up right there, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you right here back on We in France soon. Merci beaucoup and salut.